everyone! Today I want to talk about my 5 essential tools for tech editors. The first is a way of annotating PDFs, and that simply means a way of putting your notes onto the PDF that a designer sends you so that they can understand what changes they need to make. Some designers may actually prefer that you work with a text file and make changes straight to the pattern. That's not my preferred way of working because I find there's a lot of compatibility issues between the software that they use for creating it and then the software that I use for editing and adding my notes to the text file and then sending it back to them. I've had some absolute disasters with this in the past, and so my rule for tech editing is that I really only work with PDFs unless I'm working with like a magazine or book publisher, in which case things are very different. But if a designer wants me to check the pattern that they're self-publishing and they're sending it to me in pretty much the final state, that it's all laid out, the charts are in, the photos are in, I really prefer working with a PDF. My preferred software at the moment is actually a program called iAnnotate. I use this on my iPad, and I actually have the Apple Pencil and the iPad Pro, and I can just mark up the notes onto the PDF the same way I would do if I printed it out and made changes with like pen. So it works great for me and it works great for my clients. If I don't have access to my iPad for whatever reason, then I really like to work with Evernote. You do have to have their, I think it's premium or their paid version of Evernote basically, to be able to annotate PDFs, but it does work really nicely and the notes show up nice, and I've never had a problem with any kind of compatibility issues or notes not showing up when I send the PDF to the designers. A lot of the people that I work with, the students that I've trained, they like to work with some kind of Adobe program. That's totally fine, but you do have to be careful. Sometimes with Adobe, if you don't flatten your notes properly, when a designer opens it up on their end, none of your notes show up. So make sure you're flattening your notes properly if you are using something like Adobe PDF Viewer, and maybe try it out with a friend to make sure that your notes are all there when the person opens it up, even if they don't have Adobe. The second thing you really need is a way of tracking time. So as a tech editor, you are usually billing people for the hours spent editing. Occasionally you might have a flat fee, so you might say accessories cost this amount, sweaters cost, this other amount, but most of the time you're billing hours. And so you need a way of not only tracking the time you spent on an edit, but understanding how many edits you can fit in a week. So if a designer says, hey, can you fit me in this week? You need to be able to know, yes, I can, or no, I don't have time. So my number way of tracking time is the Pomodoro method. I think this works really well because it's super simple. And basically a Pomodoro it's either 20 or 25 minutes, depending on how you break things up, and then you get a 5-minute break. You can, instead of estimating like, oh, I think this pattern will take 15 to 20 minutes, or I think this pattern will take 45 to 60 minutes, you can just say this pattern's gonna take me 2 Pomodoro chunks, or I'm gonna set aside 4 Pomodoro chunks for this. And it's really easy then to build in extra time, because normally if you thought something would take 15 to 20 minutes, you might put 15 minutes in your calendar, maybe you'd put 20. But with a Pomodoro chunk, you actually have to round that up to almost 30 minutes because a full Pomodoro, if you're doing the 25 minutes work and 5 minutes break, Pomodoro is 30 minutes. So now your 15 to 20 minute estimate now has a 30-minute chunk of time in your calendar, and that usually ends up working out really nice. So that's how I like to do things. Obviously, I don't tell a client, hey, I think yours will take, 2 Pomodoros. I still have to give what I think I'm going to bill the designer for. So if I think I'm going to bill them for 20 minutes max, then I will still tell them 15 to 20 minutes. But when I'm putting it into my schedule, I put it in as like a 30-minute block. So if you have like 6 hours a week to edit, that's 12 Pomodoro chunks. And it's a lot easier to fit, okay, this pattern takes 2 chunks, and this pattern's going to take 3, and this pattern's going to take 1. Then you're at, okay, you're at 6 of your 12 chunks for the week. Whereas it's, for me, a lot harder if I think, okay, I have 6 hours. Well, this one's going to take 15 to 20 minutes, and this one's going to take 30 to 45, and I think this one might need up to 2 hours. Like that's, I just end up trying to cram too much in my week if I do it that way. So make sure you have a system for knowing how much time you have available to edit, knowing how much time a pattern will take up, and slotting it into your calendar. And then the nice thing about the Pomodoro is there's plenty of apps that you can use for your phone. So when you're actually editing, it not only keeps track of the time that you're spent on one job, but it keeps you focused, because the whole point of a Pomodoro is that you set your timer and you work solidly for 25 minutes. You don't get distracted by email notifications, social media notifications. It's a solid 25-minute block. So I recommend you check it out if you haven't already. The third thing that you need as a tech editor is a way of invoicing, right? You have to get paid. I actually keep this really simple and just use PayPal. I send all my invoices from PayPal. All of my clients pay me via PayPal, unless it's a book publisher or a magazine or a large volume job, in which case we might have a different way of payment. But for the most part, it's all PayPal. It's super simple, and it helps me keep track of invoices sent, invoices paid, invoices not paid. But if you want something that kind of does a little bit more, you could look into something like Harvest, or even QuickBooks can send invoices. So those are the 3 things you absolutely need as a tech editor: a way of annotating PDFs, a way of keeping track of your time, and a way of invoicing. But there's 2 things that if you really want to level up, you might want to consider, and that's a way of making charts and a way of making schematics. So offering charts and offering schematics are 2 additional services that you can offer a potential client to sort of round out your packages. So you're not just tech editing, you can also help them do this thing and this thing. Now, there are, of course, considerations about if you make the chart for the designer, it's impossible for you to check your own work. So there might be mistakes in the chart that you've made, and so they should either look it over carefully themselves or hire a second tech editor to look over your charts, and the same for schematics. But checking charts and checking schematics is actually a lot easier to do from a designer's point of view than checking a whole pattern. So as a tech editor, I do feel comfortable editing a pattern and doing a schematic and doing a chart, and just having them double check my chart and my schematic, because it's for schematics, they're just making sure that all the numbers that they gave you have been typed correctly. For a chart, they're just making sure that what they handed you, whether it was a spreadsheet, a drawing, like a scan of a graph paper, just making sure you've transcribed that correctly, and it should be okay. Also, if they've done something like send you written instructions and you make a chart, if you use a program like Stitch Mastery, which is what I recommend, Stitch Mastery generates the written. So if a designer sends you written instructions, you can make the chart from them, and then you can output the written instructions and make sure they're what the designer has sent you, make sure they match. And that's a great way of double checking to make sure you've done the chart right. So if you're going to be making charts for clients, I highly recommend Stitch Mastery. I've used this when I've worked with magazines. Multiple magazines have used Stitch Mastery. And I've used this when I've worked with book publishers. When I did my book, I have a book published through a book publisher, and I've self-published. I use Stitch Mastery. It's an amazing program, and I highly recommend you check it out. I also have a bunch of tutorials, and I can link to the playlist down below if you want to see it in action. For making schematics, the program that I recommend is Inkscape. It's completely free. And once you kind of get over the learning curve, it's actually really easy to use. And again, I have some tutorials, which I will link to down below, but I also have a mini course that walks you through how to make schematics in Inkscape, and comes with a bundle of pre-made schematics that you can just tweak to fit your client's needs. And I show you in the mini course how to tweak the existing schematics that I've given you. If you're interested in that, I will put the link in the description below. That's it. My 3 essential tools plus 2 bonus tools if you're really interested in leveling up your skills as a tech editor. If you want to get a PDF with links to everything I mentioned, there's a link in the description below. You can sign up and get that PDF sent to you. And if you are interested in becoming a tech editor or learning more about what tech editing does, I have a whole course that teaches people how to become tech editors. And so you can sign up to the waitlist. Spots open soon, and you'll get sent a bunch of information to help you decide if tech editing is a career option for you. Thanks for watching. Hit that like button if you found this useful, and be sure to subscribe for more videos. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.